Alrighty, it is now 8:04. We'll go around the horn here a little bit to introduce ourselves, just so you know a little bit about the experience and perspectives of the people up here on this panel today. We're all members of the recruitment team for the fellowship program. So we take time out of our day to volunteer to hold events like this to talk to you all about this amazing opportunity. So Mary or Maya, would you like to go first?
I can go ahead. My name is Maya. My pronouns are she, her. I like Josh's pronouns and I don't have mine in my name. So pronouns are she, her, hers. I was part of the MAT Fellowship class of 2019. And immediately after that fellowship placed me with an internship at Virgin Galactic. I returned to Virgin Galactic full time after I graduated college. And have been working there. It's been a great experience. And now I am working for Virgin Galactic part-time and pursuing an MEng in mechanical and aerospace engineering back at Princeton.
Amazing. So hi, everyone. My name is Mary. I was a fellow last year, so the most recent class, which was awesome. I'm a current senior at Stanford studying aerospace and computer science, and I was paired with nanoracks during my fellowship time, and I'll get to tell you guys a little bit more about the details of my internship and summit later on in the presentation.
Okay,
Eric,
everyone. Yeah, I'm Eric. No, I was just noticing the chat. I see one person can only see Josh. I don't think Josh is pinned though, so that might just be a Zoom setting on. If nobody can see any of us, let us know. But otherwise, I'll go ahead.
Okay.
So I'm Eric Hinterman. I am a sixth-year PhD student at MIT in aerospace engineering. So this is my last year, and I interned at Blue Origin a couple summers ago through the Matthew Isakowitz Fellowship Program. Prior to that, I was a chemical engineer and worked in the chemical industry for a bit. And I'm planning on going into commercial space industry next year once I graduate.
Yeah, the issue with me being pinned is because I have an obnoxiously loud mechanical keyboard and I am not on mute because I'm on my phone audio. So after I present my slides, I'll hop on mute so I can type without, seeing my deadpan face. But hi, y'all. I'm Josh Ingersoll. I was a fellow in 2019 with OneWeb Satellites. I continued my internship with OneWeb through the rest of my grad school at Georgia Tech. I now currently work as a satellite regulatory engineer for Project Kuiper at Amazon. And I am going back to grad school a second time, pursuing my a Master of Arts in Space Policy as well as an MBA. So like I said, all four of us are part of the recruitment team, and our fifth member, Gotham, will be joining during the Q&A later, and we'll be able to answer any questions you have about the fellowship. But before that, let's spend some time to go over what exactly the Matthew Isakowitz Fellowship Program is. If I can click on it. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so we're going to spend a few minutes at least talking about Matthew Isakowitz. And obviously, he's the inspiration behind this fellowship and really was an incredible young man who was known for his passion for pushing the commercial space industry into action. He was also known for just being, honestly, a really kind and generous person. And anybody that knew him that you talk to will tell you both those things about him. So because this fellowship is in his memory and to push forward the vision that he had for commercial spaceflight, we think it's important for you all to get a background on Matthew and allow us to tell you a bit about him. So Matthew began all the way back in high school working on his commercial spaceflight passion. And he actually served on, it's called the X Prize Foundation, which some of you might have heard of, during the flight of Spaceship One, which was the first privately piloted spacecraft. So that was, at the pioneering edge of the commercial space industry. And then Matthew went to college, and while in college, he worked on a bunch of different space projects. The first one was NASA's New Horizons mission, which a lot of you probably know flew by Pluto a few years ago. He worked at the Applied Physics Lab for that. He also worked on human space travel at Space Adventures and on the Dragon capsule at SpaceX. And you see these in his pictures right here, especially that middle one there with him next to Elon Musk and somewhat of the early days of SpaceX. and the signed photo, of course, from Buzz Aldrin on the left, if you couldn't read that. Matthew went to Princeton University for his undergrad and graduated summa cum laude there in their combined mechanical and aerospace engineering program. And then he also ended up going to George Washington University to get his master's degree in international science and technology policy. And I mean, that kind of speaks to his philosophy of focusing on both the technology and the policy aspects, because both are very important in moving the commercial space industry forward. And he knew that. So after he graduated, he started as the associate director of commercial spaceflight, or of the associate director at the Commercial Spaceflight Federation. And maybe some of you are unfamiliar with the Commercial Spaceflight Federation, but it really was super important, especially early on in the transformation from government space to commercial space. So, you know, companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic, the Commercial Spaceflight Federation, and while Matthew was working there, really pushed to enable them to become the players that they are in the industry today. And then after that, Matthew continued to work and continued to try and push the frontiers of humanity going into space by working at Planetary Resources and then Astronis. We give you this background because obviously Matthew is a very impressive person and really tried to move this industry forward, but these are some of the traits that we look for in Matthew Isakowitz Fellows, is a passion to move Matthew's vision forward and to help enable the commercial space industry to take off. And even beyond that, we look for people that are warm, compassionate, welcoming to others, and trying to bring other people into this industry, because those were core values that Matthew had and that he really exemplified every day. We can move on to the next slide. So I'm just going to read this for you guys. This is from Peter Diamandis, who is a really successful entrepreneur in a bunch of different areas, but he knows Matthew from the X Prize, which he founded. And he said for us, Matthew reminds me of myself, someone who early in life identified space as the primary passion, someone who was always asking how we can do more and go faster. It was because of Matthew and his passion that the X Prize actually got the attention of NASA, a sequence of events that led to the creation of NASA's Centennial Challenges, which maybe some of you have participated in, by the way, at your universities. Peter said, rather than choose the traditional path, Matthew lived the space entrepreneur's dream, a path that would eventually bring him back into my life when he interned at both Space Adventures and Planetary Resources. It would be an honor and pleasure for me to host young space entrepreneurs with Matthew's level of passion and dedication. And we really like this quote just because it really speaks to what I was just saying about Matthew. It's the combination of passion, but also his generous spirit that we're looking for in Isakowitz Fellows.
All right, so I'll be talking about the components that make up the fellowship program. So there are 4 primary components. The first is the actual internship, where you're placed with different host companies, and you're allowed to complete an internship with them there. And then there is a mentorship aspect. Each fellow is matched with an executive mentor in the industry. So in this photo here, this is George Whitesides, who at the time of the photo was the CEO of Virgin Galactic. Each fellow in the class of that year is placed with an executive mentor who's really successful in the field to sort of offer guidance and advice. And then there is a summit at the end of the summer where all of the fellows are able to come together. And it's a 3-day summit in California, and you can see different facilities and meet some people who are really really well known, really successful in the field. And it sort of culminates in this this fellowship dinner at the end of the 3 days, where you can hear different people speak and get the chance to know a few other people in the field. And it's a really fantastic experience. And then finally, there's a networking aspect of the fellowship. So with each additional class that we have, the network of Isakowitz Fellows grows, and we all serve as a resource to each other. And then being an Isakowitz Fellow, you have access to a broader network among the industry of people who are looking to hire members of the fellowship who they know have the sort of drive and passion that Matthew is known for, and that we look for in people who want to be a part of this fellowship. We can go to the next slide. Okay, great. So just on a logistic note, there are a few criteria we have for eligibility for the program. So you need to be a junior, senior, or graduate student with the goal of pursuing a career in the commercial spaceflight industry. And you must be studying an engineering or science degree, either having earned one or working towards one. And then we also look for a broad range of experience and interests within engineering, science, but also management and business and other fields that can be useful in the commercial space industry. And then you also need to be a US citizen or green card holder. And that last requirement is just sort of as a function of the regulations that exist at most of these host companies. So that's like the eligibility in a nutshell.
Awesome. Thanks, Maya. So Maya kind of gave you like a really brief, quick overview of the components of the fellowship. I'm going to try and dive a little bit deeper on the different parts. So the first one we talked about was the internship. On the screen right now, you guys can see some of our wonderful host companies. This is not a finalized list. We're still working on that. Myself, I was paired with NanoRacks, which is in the middle row there. And each company is really excited to have a fellow. Like they are pumped to get you guys, and it's just an awesome experience. They're really willing to work with you to let you explore all different aspects of the aerospace field. For me, my internship was great. I study engineering, so I got to go to the NanoRacks office in Houston, Texas, where I got to work with NASA and like hands-on engineering. But then for the other half of my internship, they sent me to DC to work in like policy side of all the engineering projects that I got to work on in Houston, which was really cool. And if we go to the next slide, we can talk about the next part of the internship, or the next part of the fellowship. This is mentorship. There we go, cool. And so the mentorship's awesome. I think this was one of the parts that I didn't really think that much about when I was applying, but it was one of the most beneficial areas that I didn't, or like one of the most surprisingly beneficial areas for me throughout my fellowship process. Everyone that you see on this screen is unbelievably successful. Like it's insane. And the great thing about them is that they're so open to talking to you. They're not just like your fellow mentor for the summer program. It's an entire lifelong membership. That's one of the great things about the Matthew program, is that it's not just throughout the summer. It continues throughout your entire life. And we're going to go on here in a moment to talk about networking, but you'll see that throughout everyone that you meet from the fellowship. And that process kind of starts for you guys right now. Just by applying, I know it can be a lot of a work. It's 2 letters, a rec, essay, stuff like that, but it's worth it because that process of meeting different people, it's a complete bonding experience, just the process of applying. So we really just want to kind of like get home with you guys that you should apply.
I just want to echo what Mary said really quickly, because again, I think a lot of people, I've had past programs where you get a mentor and maybe you talk to them once or like you send an email to them. It's totally different in this fellowship. Like you can call your mentor anytime you want and they'll have a conversation with you because they know the caliber of people that this program brings in and they want to talk to you and help you succeed. So it can be like super game changing for your career. I think this is probably maybe the most important part of the fellowship.
Yeah, I would definitely echo what Eric said. I know for my mentor, I still am in contact with her, and like literally I just called her about a month ago and we just went over like practice interview questions because I'm in the process of recruiting now for other jobs, and she got me connected with some different people. She also just gave me like general life advice. I even babysat for her kids once when I was in DC. So you get to like know them on a personal level. They're your friends, but they're also your space mentors, which is a great friendship to have. Next slide. Okay, and then last but not least, it's a summit. And this is awesome. I mean, it's a trip to California. So who is not going to be excited about this? But I think one of the great things about the summit is that you don't realize like, it's not just a work conference. It is like a summer camp. It is awesome. You're up late at night with your friends, you're bonding with everyone, you create a group chat, and like, it's just a wonderful time. You go out and sing karaoke, you go to SpaceX, Virgin Galactic, you're meeting all these super high level officials. And on that previous page, you saw all those mentors, they all come for dinner with you. So not only are you interacting with your mentor personally, but you're interacting with now all your friends' mentors. So it's a room it's probably like the most powerful room in the world that night, because it's insane how many high leading officials come and want to spend time with you. I remember being a little nervous at first, because it's like, you kind of have a little bit of imposter syndrome, I think. And that's something that they talk about throughout the fellowship. And that's one of the reasons that we do these presentations, is because we know that imposter syndrome is present. Everyone feels it. But we want you guys just to apply, because we all felt it. And now look where we've gone. We've benefited so much from this program. But yeah, the summit is amazing. 3 or 4 days in LA, touring tons of different aerospace companies, dinner, mentorship, you're interacting with friends, literally everything you could ever want. And next slide. And I think I'm going to pass it back over to Maya now to talk about networking, which
thanks, Mary. So I touched on this briefly beforehand, but just sort of to speak to it a bit more at length. One of like the really wonderful things about being part of a program like this is that you get to be surrounded by people who are as passionate and driven about being in this industry as you are. And so what that leads to is an incredibly powerful career network where everyone is so involved in a bunch of different little sub realms within the commercial aerospace industry. You have a friend everywhere, which is a really beautiful and really powerful thing to be a part of. It allows us to, for example, I'm about to apply to a job at Blue Origin, which I'm excited about, but I'm like looking to a lot of my friends who have worked there as part of this fellowship, or who now work there, and who I know through this fellowship, sort of to get their take on what it's like working there, things that they like about it, things that they don't like about it, things that might be helpful for me to study like in an interview. And so just like wanted to highlight that, because that gives me sort of an opportunity to hear firsthand from people who have worked at this place, and people who've worked at a bunch of other places that you get as being part of this fellowship that I certainly wouldn't have had otherwise. And something I think is like a really, a very tangible benefit of doing this fellowship. We can move on to the next slide.
Real quick, I'm honestly a little bit starstruck looking at the middle picture on this slide. Astronaut Sarisha Bandla, Tim Ellis, CEO of Relativity, and Peter Diamandis, the founder of the X Prize, all in one photo at the networking dinner. So yeah, no, the network is a huge component.
Yeah, okay. And so then as each successive year moves into the alumni status of this fellowship, our network of alumni alone, sort of independent of the network of executives who know that this program is sort of worth investing in, just the alumni expands like a crazy amount every year. And so we have people at, I'm at Virgin Galactic right now, but we have people at Blue Origin, SpaceX, Virgin Orbit, Rocket Lab, and you can see all these other companies pictured here: Stratolaunch, ABL, and just sort of as like a broad statement about Matthew Fellows, we kind of go everywhere in the commercial space industry, and I think it's really awesome to see this like group of young people being able to explore this industry and sort of take it by storm. It's like a really exciting and fun thing to be a part of. And I personally feel very proud to be a part of that. It's a fantastic opportunity.
All right, I'm going to read you 3 quotes from past fellows. It's going to be lots of fun, because if we haven't convinced you yet, hopefully these quotes will. So the first is from Lucy. I don't remember, I'm not sure what year Lucy was. We've had 4 classes of Isakowitz Fellows now. Okay. She said, "Don't be intimidated by the program, just go for it." And this is really important, because I've personally known people that don't feel like they qualify, or that they're not good enough for it, and so they just don't apply. And you'll never make it if you don't apply. She says, "This program will give you amazing guidance for your career and insight into the commercial space industry that I've never gotten elsewhere." And I think you can tell that we all agree with that. Miles said, you will meet the most genuine, kind, and inspirational group of people while jumpstarting your career in the commercial space industry. Don't pass up this opportunity. And Miles is right. Like I said, we're trying to channel Matthew's spirit here, both in his personality and how generous and kind he is, but also in his passion for moving the industry forward. So you find a lot of people like that, which is awesome. And then Halen said, this program is the best possible first step into a career in commercial spaceflight. I think that's very true as well. We had like 50 of these quotes that are all saying stuff like this, by the way. I had to pick 3, but if you ask any fellow, I think they'll tell you how awesome it is. So I hope that you believe us.
Alrighty, I apologize for my lights being out. Amazon's office is being green and decided to, since there's only one person in here, apparently the lights are off, and I tried standing up and waving my hands around, but that didn't work. So you get ghost Josh for the rest of the presentation. I'll try to figure something out during the Q&A. But let's get down to the actual details. Now you know basically how the program is broken down, what the benefits are. Let's talk about some timelines, some logistics as to what the next steps are. So our application has been open for about 3 weeks now, and you have about, just about 1 month left until the end of the application window. So applications are due October 29th. I think it's a Friday, and it's going to be that's your 2 letters of recommendation, your completed application, including the essays, and you'll submit that through the website. After all the applications are through, if the administrative team goes through and checks everybody to make sure they have all of their components, you'll receive an email from the admin team saying, yes, we've got everything that you need for a complete application, and then it goes into review. There's reviews, as you can see here, take place from the end of October until November, December timeframe, when the top applicants are selected to have a video interview with part of the team. After that point, you have an interview. If you are chosen past that round, you're part of a finalist pool of applicants that's offered up to the host companies. And at that point, it's very similar to other programs like Brooke Owens or Patty Gray Smith, where the finalist pool the finalists are matched with different host companies. And it's sort of like the reverse order from a typical internship application, where you'd have like your technical interview first and then like a behavioral or fit interview second. For the Matt Fellowship, it's sort of backwards. You're screened by the fellowship first, and then your final step is a technical interview with one of the host companies. So that takes place usually December timeframe, near the end of 2021, beginning of 2022. The deadline for final selection is January 31st, 2022, and you will be notified if your application doesn't make it to a certain stage early on. So typically we have a lot of applicants that have other opportunities or are trying to pursue other things that have conflicting timelines. So the admin team tries to be on top of it and let you know where your application stands as we move through the process. The spring is really fun. You get matched with a buddy who's one of the alums, and you get your first sort of contact with the rest of the fellow class digitally, and then you start your internship at the beginning of May, June time, 2022. And this all culminates with the summit in LA, TBD, usually the end of July. So we went over the logistics of what the timeline looks like from here on out. We went over the why the program was created, who it was sort of molded after, the components of the program, the benefits of the program. And now here's our last, if you haven't heard it enough during this presentation, we all think that you being in this Zoom call right now means that you should apply. If you are eligible and this is something you're even remotely interested in, you have something to bring to the table that can help push the commercial space industry forward, and we'd love to receive an application from you. So at this point, and you can see as Amy, our social media chair, is in the chat, we have a bunch of different social accounts that you should go follow. We put news and about the program and new mentors, new companies, highlights from fellows, and it's a great place to get information, stay up to date. One last thing that I will say before we move to the Q&A is because of the type of people or the type of person that Matt was and the type of people that we're sort of looking to bring into this program in his image, you'll find that a lot of the alumni of the Matt Fellowship tend to be very open to providing support or having informal phone calls or chats or answering messages about the program. So if you go on LinkedIn or you go on social media and you see an alum, they're like, hey, their journey is very similar to what I want out of my commercial space experience. Send them a message, send them an email, tweet at them, and hopefully you're going to be able to make a connection and have an honest conversation about what your goals are and learn about what they did to get where they are. With that, if you have any questions that aren't answered in the Q&A, or if there's some information that you'd like to ask about your specific situation that doesn't seem like it makes a great fit for a public forum, there's a recruitment at matthewfellowship.org that goes directly to the 5 of us, us 4 plus Gotham, who should be joining on any minute now. He had a class that ran late. And then additionally, there's all of our names down there. I tend to be pretty active on Twitter. So if you want to chat with me on Twitter or Clubhouse, recently I've been very active on as well. Would love to talk to any of y'all. In fact, I have with a lot of you on LinkedIn already. But before we move into Q&A, does anybody have any closing thoughts on the presentation?
I guess I can just add one last thing, guys, is we talked about a lot, definitely apply. I think one thing to really highlight is that this is not just like a random summer program. This is like a lifelong membership. And it's really worth the application process. Even just applying is a big step forward. You get to make lots of connections, you get a lot of experience. So definitely just apply.
Love it. All right, and then if y'all just let me know back channel if there's a question that you, as we're going down the list here, that you really want to take. At this point, we're going to shift over to the Q&A portion of the info section. So if you look on Zoom, there should be a Q&A tab where you can ask questions, and then more importantly, besides asking your own questions, you can look through the list of questions that have already been asked and upvote the ones that you would like to have answered. Oh, hey, Gotham's here. Cool. You literally joined like to the second, like when we're moving over to the Q&A. But if you look through the list of questions and you see one that you would like to have answered, make sure to upvote it so it goes up to the top so we get to it first. Before we answer the first one, Gotham, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for letting me in, Josh. My name is Gotham Vishwarupan, class of 2021. I'm currently a PhD student at UCLA studying aerospace engineering.
Love it. I met Gotham my Matt Fellowship summer in 2019 at Cape Canaveral the night of the Night Falcon Heavy launch. And the launch got like scrubbed to the back of the window. So that was a pretty late night, but yeah, no, glad to have you here, man. All righty, let's start at the top. Is previous internship experience a major factor in acceptance? And then as panelists, if somebody says something that you'd like to provide nuance to or like more context for, feel free to jump in. And then either in the chat or verbal. But I personally think that previous internship experience, like internship in industry may not be mandatory. It's definitely like a big component because we're looking for people that have had a good amount of experience under their belt, but it doesn't have to be per se in industry. Like there's a lot of other like if you're really active in Rocket Club on campus, or if you do research in a lab, or you are active in other activities that provide you a team oriented experience or a team oriented challenge that isn't just going to class and showing that like increased involvement, I think that definitely qualifies as well. Besides like cut and dry industry. Go ahead, Maya.
Yeah, just to sort of give an anecdote to back that up. My internship at Virgin Galactic, which I was placed with through this fellowship, was my first experience in industry. It was the summer after my junior year of college, and I hadn't had any industry, like strict industry experience before that. But I'd done some research and had been involved in some other stuff on campus. And so if you don't have like strict industry experience, you should still apply. Don't be discouraged from applying. Did you have something to add, Eric?
No, I just clicked the wrong button. I was trying to mark that one as red.
Hey, you did it successfully. Eric, if you want to lead the next question, I'm going to try and figure out these lights real quick.
Sure. So the next question is, how much consideration is placed on GPA? It's a good question. Again, this fellowship is founded on people that we think can move the commercial spaceflight industry forward. So GPA is not the primary decider in this at all. It's more a passion for commercial spaceflight, a demonstrated ability to lead projects or push projects forward in your own way that we think you can take to the industry. That being said, GPA plays a role. I mean, like, you know, we look at your resume and everything. So we want to see that you've also been able to dedicate yourself academically. So I'd say it's a factor, but there's a lot of other factors that are very important in your application. If you have, you know, a GPA that's not super high, you can definitely make up for it in other areas.
I would also say that if for whatever reason you think that your GPA currently would be a detractor on your application, if there's extenuating circumstances that led you to a point that is what your GPA is, like if there's, I mean, if you're having to work full time to put yourself through school, if you're having to take care of family that need you, those type of situations. So if there's context to your story, there's opportunity to talk about those types of things in the essay portion of the application. How many students are accepted for each class? So there's sort of a ceiling. I think it's 30 fellows. Yes, is that
30 was last
okay.
class, yeah.
So anywhere between, I think the smallest class has been 24 and the largest class has been 30. There's like a pseudo ceiling on the number of fellows that the program is looking to accept for each class, because such a large part of the program is that fraternity, that like bonding you're able to make with the rest of your class. So much larger than that, and it becomes harder to build those type of bonds with people. And if anybody wants to provide context, jump in.
I'd say the executive mentorship as well. You know, you try and get matched up with a mentor who can dedicate time to you. So that's probably another reason to keep it not too huge of a class.
Gotham or Mary, do you want to take this next one?
Yeah,
oh, actually, wait. We should probably do real quick. Sorry, probably should go with people that have been on the opposite side of the review process. We'll get you all in the next one. Sorry. So what are some of the factors that most strongly influence selection for the class? If you pay attention to the presentation, I think we went over a lot of them. It's sort of having that mastery of your academics, being able to take the concepts that come along with a STEM degree that would lead you to be interested in the commercial space industry and have those within your grasp. Being involved on campus or outside of campus, outside of just your class. We're looking for people who are leaders in their community. Yes. Besides that, it's more so of that passion. Like, passion is a huge portion of this application process, like showing us that you not only are very excited and motivated to push the industry forward, but also have sort of a more mature outlook on what part of the industry, what you're like, or what niche you would like to see filled in the industry. So one of the questions we get a lot is, why is the requirement juniors, seniors, and above in age? It's because of that looking for people that have been around the block a time or two and have actually had some time to give some thought to what they would like to contribute to the industry. So those are the largest pillars. There's some other attributes that we look at during the review process, but those are by and large the largest components.
I can take on the next question over here that says, this is by Rania. For PhD students, will the technical interview be a general one? So as a PhD student myself, when I went in, I can tell you, there are two interviews you will face. One is through the Matthew Isakowitz portion, and then the second interview is with the corporation you're going to be applying to. So with the Matthew Isakowitz, it's more of a general one, but within your corporation at the PhD level, it will get to a technical point. I myself had to go through that level of technicality, but they will make sure that whatever research you're doing as you've already introduced yourself to them, it doesn't take you too far off the track you wish to go down.
I will also say that because of the way the process works is that there's a pool of finalists that's offered up to the host companies, and they have hiring managers or like technical recruiters look through the list. They will pull like attributes out of your resume that will end up aligning with their needs as well. Like for example, I did research during grad school at Georgia Tech that was on optical communications. And when I got matched with OneWeb Satellites, my technical final round interview for the MAT Fellowship was like, hey, what do you know about optical communications? Like, what's that? Like, you've done academic work on it, but what's your opinion on like industry implementation of the tech? And I was like, oh, okay, this is right up my alley. But they obviously had seen that on my resume and sort of matched with me or selected to interview me based on that sort of attribute. So it's not just it's an intelligent process. There's humans on both sides of the equation. Real quick, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, so will the presentation be available to you guys? Yeah, we're gonna post this entire recording and the presentation as well. And then just in the normal chat, I saw someone ask about the work I was able to do at NanoRacks. I mentioned it briefly, but they were really flexible, and that was the best part of my internship there, is they're willing to let me do whatever I showed interest in. So I came in thinking I was just gonna do engineering, and halfway through I was like, I'm kind of interested in the policy. So they sent me to DC for a bit. And I think that's like a very common theme throughout all the host companies, is that even if you come in for a certain role, they're really interested in like helping you really grow in terms of just your 10-week or 12-week internship time.
Yeah, I'd also say that like host companies tend to be pretty flexible depending on, because a lot of the times these are pretty small startups. So you're not part of a huge group of interns. I think when I was at OneWeb Satellites, there was 6 interns that summer. So like if we were covering our home bases or whatever our direct manager wanted us to do, it was more of the type of people that end up becoming MAT fellows are also the ones that tend to seek out extra things to do or like unique experiences they can have while they're at an internship. So it's sort of a little column A, little column B sort of thing.
I can go ahead and jump in.
Gotham, do you want to, or somebody want to take the next one? Oh.
Yeah, well, I was going to jump in on it's number 2. Or sorry, the
Sure.
third one down. Is having a few years of industry experience between undergrad and grad school frowned upon? And I was going to answer this because I have a few years of industry experience between undergrad and grad school. And I made it, so you can too. I don't think it's frowned upon. I think it could actually even benefit you, especially if it's industry experience. This is all about pushing the industry forward. I was in a different industry, but ended up trying to switch into commercial space. So no, I don't think it would hurt you.
Yeah, we've had a few non-traditional students as fellows. It honestly probably will play to a benefit because you have had more time to sort of learn what trends are going on in industry and who the major players are. So definitely play that to your advantage. Somebody want to take the question on what would you say helped you the most in being accepted?
Yeah, I definitely don't mind taking that. So I would say, and I can speak on all 5 of us for this, it's get involved. Are you active at your university? Are you doing research? Are you in a technical club? Are you like participating in anything? Because even your personality defines a part of you, but getting involved is definitely what would say, like, it's passion driven right there. And as Josh mentioned multiple times, it's even in the presentation, passion truly defines getting accepted into the program. So as long as you're committed to whatever you're doing outside and it shows that you're really involved and you want to contribute to the next gen of aerospace, that's really what's going to help you get accepted into the program.
And then Maya or Mary, if you wanted to jump on that. If not, we'll move on to the next one.
I think Gotham hit it pretty well. I think like passion is a really big part of this. And I think that was a big part of what it was for me. So, yeah.
I also personally for this one, I would say, okay, yeah, go ahead, Eric. I would say personally it was support for me. I was part of the second class of Matt Fellows, and so there was only one like group of alumni at that point. One of which was one of my teammates on my senior design team in undergrad. So he actually reached out to me. I was like, hey, this is a really cool program. You should apply for it. And just having that support, helping me get over like imposter syndrome and not feeling qualified to even apply was a big thing. So like that feeling of support definitely came through, I think, in my essays and my eventual interview. So yeah, it's don't feel intimidated. There's resources out there that you can leverage. I mean, just like this information session, the fact that you're here shows that you're the type of person that would try to use the resources available to them for support. Alrighty. Does each host company receive only one fellow? How does the distribution of fellows to host companies work? This is like a stats question, so I'll answer real quick. If you look back at the previous press releases for the different classes, if you go to the fellows tab on the website, you can actually see like a very quickly distribution. Most of the time, each of the host companies only has one, but for some of the larger companies, either some of the larger companies that have like a lot of diverse like programs moving on or going on, they'll most likely take two fellows. Like we've had two fellows at Blue Origin a few times, two fellows at SpaceX a few times. And then also sometimes it just works out for the admin team for the number of fellows they'd like to have in a class. Sometimes multiple finalists will interview with a company and the hiring manager at that company says, oh, we love both of them or we love all three of them. And there's cases where it works out on the back end. But yeah. So this next one, approximate date, if you look back, the slides will be online and honestly, it's very similar year to year. The admin team tries to get back to you as quickly as possible after they move people to the interview stage. And then if you've had an interview, you'll get notified within a week or two afterwards if you get matched with the company. So like they'll keep in contact with you all the way through. Yep, and it's applications close on the end of October, so you should know if you've moved on or not sometime near the end of the year. It doesn't drag on much into 2022.
There's another one I'd like to take on, and it's and it just jumped from my screen. But the question was, let me see if I can find this. Looks like it's gone. I guess I'll just check on another one then. What fields of study have you seen within the fellowship program? I would say it's mostly STEM. At least in our class, Mary, I don't know if you can confirm with me, but I don't remember a major outside of STEM. But as far as I know, all types of engineering are taken in. I do know astrophysics majors and physics that have been accepted as well.
Yeah, we define it as science or engineering degree. And I know there was somebody else in the chat who asked if I have a science or engineering undergraduate, but I'm in a graduate program that's not science or engineering. Can I still apply? And the answer is yes. If you have a degree or are pursuing a degree in engineering or science, that's okay.
And now I found the other question that I liked it myself. Okay, sorry guys. The question is, how many people, in order to get a letter of recommendation, and now it just jumped again for some reason. So the question is who to go to for a strong letter of recommendation. I would say all five of us could agree. It should be someone like, whether it's a grad student that you're researching under, it's not about their title, but it's who knows you that can describe you really well professionally and personally, to be able to not just express you for a position, but what value you can bring outside, like your personality as well. if we're looking for someone all-rounded, we would want someone who could write a letter of recommendation talking about how all-rounded you are as a person, because academics are just one of the strengths that you have.
Yeah, it's definitely more. I'd say that it's definitely not all about the messaging, because you obviously want, like, you don't want your classmate writing a letter of recommendation for you. So there's a good balance there, but it is more about like how they know you, how you work in a team versus, or how you work on a team, how you like how motivated you are, how you carry yourself, what your character like. So there's a whole mixing pot of different components that go into a good letter of recommendation. Do you choose which company you intern at, or do the companies choose you? So like we said earlier, the finalists are offered up to the companies. But if you look at the application on the website, you will see that one of the essays is, oh, here we go, the lights again. I'll have to jump up after this. You'll see that one of the essays is asking you what type of work you would like to do in your internship. So it's like, hey, what are you motivated by, and how do your interests and experience align with what the host companies have to offer? So a lot of the times what I recommend to applicants do is like do some research on the host company pool. Like if you know what sort of programs are being done at Analytical Space currently, or Momentous, like some of these are smaller startups. So going the extra mile and understanding what type of work is being done, and figuring out how what you're passionate about, what you have experience in, like aligns with what the host companies are trying to do and what their missions are. Like that really helps the admin team see like where you could possibly get placed, or how you could be a successful Matt Fellow. Eric, if you want to take over the reins for a second, I gotta run around.
Yeah, sure. So we had one question that said, for the smallest class size of 24, was that due to a lack of applicants, or only 24 people passing the criteria? I think the answer is neither. The class size varies each year because of our mentors and our host companies. So we want everyone to have both experiences, and everyone will have both experiences, but sometimes we just have to vary it by a few people each year. So no, we did have plenty of applicants that year.
This is another quick matter of fact one, and then we'll get Mary and Maya to jump in here in a sec. Our internship's going to be in person or some remote due to COVID. That's a company by company policy. I think over the past summer it was a good mix, and then in 2020 it was probably a bit more skewed to remote. But this, like we said before, you get screened by the fellowship, and then you get matched for the host company. And after you get screened by the fellowship, it's basically like getting an internship at the host company through either way. So you're under the host company's like relocation policies or travel policies, those types of things. So yeah.
I can jump in and take a question. An interesting one I just read is, what would you would say has improved the most since you've been accepted to the program? And one I would just say is like in general, my confidence. I think you kind of realize that everyone has their own role within the aerospace or commercial space realm, and it is a big industry, and there's a space for everyone. And I think that's a really comforting fact, to know that you're part of this family and you have a backbone to lean on.
There's another question that just popped up that relates to what Mary just said, so I wanted to jump in on it. It says, how does an internship through this fellowship differ from a normal summer internship at these partner companies? And I think that, like, you know, the like just strictly in terms of the work that you get, that's probably very similar, but the entire experience of doing an internship and sort of being introduced to the commercial space industry is enhanced by knowing that you have this community and this network to sort of lean on, as Mary said. And I think that makes it easier and a bit more fulfilling and a bit less intimidating to go into an internship in this industry. So that's one of the things I really liked about it.
There's a question I'd like to take on here. It says, this is a question regarding the 45 mentors. and it says, do you expect to have 45 fellows in 2022, or will there be some fellows that have more than one mentor? What I can say right now is for every student, you'll get only one mentor, but take advantage of the mentorship, because this is more like a siblinghood, or like an older sibling that you're looking up to, where they're here to help you both professionally and personally. At the same time, even though they're your main mentor, you'll still get a chance to hear from other mentors and establish your relations as well with them. So you're like guided by one, but you're not limited to one. Would any of you like to add anything?
Right there. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I'll jump in on that. Dr. Scott Pace was not my mentor, but I actually just got out of a lecture this evening in grad school with Dr. Pace, because when COVID started and I had a bit more free time, I reached out to Steve Isakowitz, and I was asked. I was like, "Hey, Steve, interested? I have a bit more free time. Interested in what I could be doing to like further my studies." And he knew Dr. Pace and introduced me, and that's how I ended up at George Washington and the Space Policy Institute. So there's, just because you get matched with one, all of the mentors have volunteered to give their time to the fellows, and are quite approachable if you put in some effort and make yourself available as well. So yeah, if I'm getting a quote from the admin team. If we have 30 fellows, we'll have 30 active mentors that year, but all of them stay involved, basically, like we said before. So once again, it's an intelligent process based on your holistic application, how you end up getting matched with companies and mentors and all that fun stuff.
I should have mentioned this before, but some of us have been answering questions by typing just because we're running out of time. So if your question disappeared, or if you asked a question, check the answered tab. We might have typed an answer to it, just so you know.
Yeah, all the fun yes or no questions. Jordan asks, how many people usually apply for the fellowship? How many have applied already? If you can share that. Y'all are college students. I mean, you may be grad students, but you're still college students. So if any of you had the experience of TAing an assignment and watching as the time passes by versus when the due date is, and when the completed assignments come in, you'll know it tends to be down to the last minute. Usually applications come in pretty close to the deadline, but that's not just because of college students being college students. Lining up letters of recommendation is not the easiest thing to do, because you're usually asking somebody who's had a bit more experience and has a bit more stature than yourself to basically help you out. So it's always fun, and it's hard to have tight deadlines with that. So you want to give them as much time as possible. So I would say that, I mean, it varies year to year how many students apply for the fellowship. It is a competitive program. But you always have the opportunity that if you, for whatever reason, don't make the cut this year, to access resources like alum and the admin team, and do whatever you can to improve your application for the subsequent year. I think we've had like a good chunk of fellows who are reapplicants. I mean, Gotham, you applied multiple times, didn't you?
I am proudly a three-peat, everyone. So Josh notified me in like 2019. I applied, finally got it in 2021. So yeah,
don't be discouraged. It is a competitive program, but you learn a lot, and you develop and mature as a person and as a space enthusiast. So it helps with your application each subsequent year. Alrighty, Mary, if you see any questions you'd like to take, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I can. Sorry, the Q&A just disappeared. I think we got a lot of questions just in general about letters of rec. So just to touch on that, I know a couple people did. I think Gotham mentioned this, but the best person or the best advice we have for letters of rec is to reach out early, like probably tonight, tomorrow, and to reach out to people that know you. So I know for me, like I have an advisor at Stanford who's like my main advisor and like has this really cool title, but like I felt like he didn't really know me. So I actually just reached out to like my typical math professor, because I feel like they could speak to my dedication and my passion. And Eric did a great job explaining how Matthew's passion lives through the fellowship. And that's what they're really looking to see. Those letters or recs are really kind of like a personal one-on-one moment, regardless of what your experience is and stuff like that. And that's what really matters for all these fellows.
Yeah, 100% agree. The letters of rec are there's only so much voice you can put into the application. So you have your essays, and then the letters of rec are another great opportunity for who you are as a person and your character to come through without having like a face-to-face conversation. So definitely take advantage of that.
Another one I see on here is,
oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Someone asked, does this program take into consideration race or ethnicity? This program does not. This one's very open and broad, but there are a ton of really awesome programs out there. Me, myself, I was a Brooke Owens Fellow, which is for women and gender minorities. There's the Patty Grace Smith Fellowship, Z Factor, and Josh can talk about a panel that he's sitting on tomorrow, right? Do you want to plug that real quick?
Yeah. There's a ton of other programs that are specifically focused on increasing the diversity in the aerospace industry. And I think it's at 7 p.m. tomorrow. If you look at my Twitter, I'm the Matt Fellowship representative for a panel tomorrow from all 5 of the programs that are sort of structured like this. But I will say, while all people of all walks of life, all backgrounds, as long as you meet the eligibility criteria, are eligible to apply for this fellowship. Something that the administrative team strives for is a diverse fellow class, because of like we all have different life experiences based on our backgrounds and upbringing. Having a very diverse class of fellows strengthens the class as a whole, especially when we are doing like team building projects and stuff during the summit. So having a diverse fellow class is very important, and it's definitely something that the admin team strives for when they're going through the selection process. Okie dokie. For recommendations, do you happen to know if we can submit recommendation letters written by our recommenders with their contact information instead of having them fill out their information manually? It's an email that you send it to, I'm pretty sure. So you just let them know like, hey, here's the deadline, and here's the email you send the letter to. It's usually sent directly, or if it's not sent directly, oh, Jenny's typing. If it's not sent directly,
it's a form this year.
It's a form this year. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The recommenders need to fill it out directly. It's on the apply page.
There's a form on the apply page on the website this year where your recommender will go to the link you send them, fill out their information, and submit. If that for whatever reason is not possible or not an easy task for you and your recommender to go through, be sure to reach out to the apply@matthewfellowship.org to talk about if you have any extenuating circumstances. Alrighty, Mary's taking care of that one. To the fellows that are presenting, how do you all assign value to the commercial space industry? In short, why do you feel that commercial space engineering efforts are inherently valuable? Oh, who wants to do the why space question?
Oh my God, I got it. I think that like space, like as human beings on the planet Earth, space is our like biggest source of unknown knowledge. Like this is like an infinite well from which we can draw knowledge, and like every step further we take into the commercial space industry is like more and more potential we have to learn from like this big black beautiful void that we're just like suspended in on planet Earth. So I think like being able to be a part of the commercial space industry puts all of us as individuals in like this really unique position where we get to like be on the cutting edge of like discovery and the unknown. And I think that's like inherently beautiful and special and really rare. So that's my why space. Other people may have their own, but that's mine.
Yeah, no, that's actually like pretty much word for word mine as well. It's like if you're going to have like a boundary of knowledge in like the spatial realm, like XYZ coordinates, like aerospace engineering is like the actual like physical boundary of our knowledge. So yeah, no, that's why me. Also, I'm super motivated by philanthropic efforts to increase internet connectivity globally. So my internship through the fellowship was at OneWeb, who is launching a mega constellation to provide broadband internet globally. And now I'm at Amazon Project Kuiper doing very similar work. So that sort of scratches my itch looking back down to Earth, space for Earth, but definitely agree with Maya as like why space in general.
All right, we're almost there. Thanks for those of you that have stuck around. We're trying to get through all these. We only have a few left. If you have to leave, that's fine, but we've answered pretty much all of them. So check the typed answers. I'll answer the critiques. Is it possible to work on technical and business? And yeah, we have certainly some fellows that have interned in, I mean, we told you, Matthew is really focused on both technical and policy. And so there's some host companies that have more of a focus on policy or more opportunities in that area if you'd like, or business as well. And so that'll just be a discussion that you have with the Matthew Isakowitz team during your interviews on what your interests are.
It's also something that you have the opportunity to expound upon during the essays. So having that sort of mature, developed, like this is my why, that can come through very clearly in your essays, and you have the opportunity to use that space. I would also say, I didn't get to bring it up during this info session, but definitely make sure you're using your word count. I think we decreased it this year just because the volume of applications increased, and we're trying not to drive the review team crazy. But you have only so many words, and obviously, if we're having a conversation, then I feel like you would go over that word count pretty quickly. So make good use of the words that you have, so that you can really let your voice and who you are shine through in that portion of the application. Real quick, I want to get to Andrew's question just so I can like knock it out of the way. Yeah, that's my job. I'm a regulatory engineer at Kuiper, so I do half orbital debris space safety policy here in DC, and the other half is licensing and spectrum management. So KA band and all the other fun different bands and the regulations and rules that go into that, working with the FCC. So yeah, that's what I do. And I'll see you in Dubai in a couple weeks.
I'll take on the question for the final list of host companies. Keep checking in on the MIFP website as well as follow on MIFP social media. If there are new companies joining, usually there's an announcement about it, but I believe the list that we have at the moment in About should be pretty accurate on our final list of companies.
Josh's lights got turned out again. There you go. Okay, last question from Isabel. Oh, Maya, you got it. Okay.
Yeah, I was typing it, but I can say it out loud now. I think that like with a resume, you like just broadly like resumes as a concept, you should include whatever you feel speaks best to your qualifications for this program. And so there isn't any like magic formula where we'll see one thing and we'll be like, yep, this is it. If there's like certain projects or experiences that you think are really reflective of your experiences or that you feel very passionately about and can speak to, I would include those. But as I said, there's no like specific formula of what you need and it'll be great. Just sort of including things that you think are a most accurate reflection of your experiences, I think would be the way to go there.
I was going to say in the chat, for those that are remaining, if you have a very specific situation or anything like that that you're just wondering about, email apply@matthewfellowship.org, that email address I just posted. We can answer any follow-on questions, especially about specific cases. I'm willing to hang out here for a few more minutes in case anybody wants to stay that has questions. I think some of the other panels as well, but yeah. I don't know, Josh.
Yeah, I'll be here for probably another 10, 15 minutes. I got a policy paper due Sunday afternoon that I haven't gotten enough. I got to do about 1,000 words before I go to bed, but so
yeah, we'll be here for a few minutes. Feel free to stick around if you have any questions we haven't answered, but if not, thank you so much for making the time to attend. We're really looking forward to receiving all of your applications, and yeah, thanks for making the time.
Good luck, everyone.
Many thanks, y'all.